Ashes of Creation was a scam. Narc was completely right, and the situation is out of control. There is so much information currently going around this, and boys, I have consumed probably literally all of it. I have consumed roughly 7+ hours of videos covering what has happened, and I'm gonna retell you everything of it. And we're gonna be using this as a template. If you have in case actually read exactly this tweet, I'm gonna be adding a lot because this is just a reasonable-ish timeline. There's a lot of things to be added. So if you don't know anything about the situation, you're in for a treat. And if you know bits and pieces about the situation, you're still in for a treat. This is gonna be a generational story passed down through the internet for decades to come, boys. But before we start, I just want our boy Young, to give a little bit of his wisdom on the topic, because as we all know, he's very smart and stuff.
So, just about everyone knew that something was very amiss with Ashes of Creation after it collapsed alongside its studio just 2 weeks after launch.
Thank you, Young. Thank you. Yes. Most people figured out that something's going on with Ashes of Creation the moment it decide to fire the staff and go bankrupt. Yes, yes, Young. Very, very smart. 10 out of 10 take, in fact. But in any case, boys, here we go. There's gonna be so much to add to this. It's gonna be crazy, by the way. So, to get this straight, Ashes of Creation's former CEO, Stephen Sharif, bankrupted the company on purpose after 10 years having not put a single dollar into his company. Now, it's actually even funnier than that. While Stephen did, in fact, put absolutely not a single cent of his own money in this, even though claiming all this time that he has fully financed that bad boy because, he's a billionaire and shit. Which, by the way, no one actually ever seemingly checked, because turns out this guy is barely a millionaire. Well, now he's a multi-millionaire after the rug pull, but still. The funny part here is Steven bankrupted the company intentionally, yes. And do you know why? This is the fun part. Because the people who actually put in money into this wanted Steven to take a step back and just be the game director, not actually the CEO of the full company, and to restructure his payment to be merit based yearly so he cannot just steal essentially millions from the Ashes of Creation company account and flood it into his own private equity. And this is where we got the famous, infamous now, line which Stephen Sharif stated, after what the board proposed, my conscience could not go with it. Yes, Stephen's conscience did not allow him to not steal money from the company that he was that he spent $0 on. Yes, that's how it actually turns out. This is as hilarious as it gets, by the way. And by the way, all of this is alleged because the court procedures are still going through, but my god, so many people have spoken out, ex-investors, and so many things have happened. This is crazy. Ashes of Creation was spending 2.5 million per month in a burn in 2025. This is, by the way, not really that confirmed because we still haven't seen the books fully, but I'm not sure this is true. Okay, I'm not sure. And 1 million per year was salaried to himself and his husband throughout the duration of the project. But he wasn't keeping up with his mortgage on his home and was at risk of having the bank foreclose on his house. In almost losing his house, Stephen began his two primary investors for money to secure a loan that he couldn't pay, and put 1.3 million into an escrow account for his home loan. So to summarize this, Stephen took a lot more than just the 1.3 million loan. He owns a lot of money to a lot of people, okay? Which is hilarious. But he doesn't actually own it because he took it out from these people in the name of Ashes of Creations, the studio that runs it. So there you go. That's also a fun fact. And Steven did not just take 1 million, okay? He took multiple million, used it to buy out his house so the bank doesn't take it, and then he sold it and kept all the money, which is, by the way, blatantly illegal if true, which is hilarious. I think Steven is probably, by the way, gonna end up in jail. Even if half of this shit is true, he's probably going to jail. Okay, he's going to jail, prison, or whatever other institution where you're not exactly allowed to exit at any time you please is gonna take him. Because that is blatantly theft. He also did genius things like take out loans and leverage the money from those loans to take out other loans, which is, by the way, illegal. Surprise, surprise, that's going to be a common factor here. Which is illegal, obviously, to take out even bigger loans. It's beautiful, isn't it? When Ashes of Creation track, when Ashes of Creation's track record of in insolvency wasn't improving, the primary investor of Intrepid to 80 million said he was taking over and tried to make Steven the creative director with an earn out plan. They were to lay off 50 to 70% of the staff, but save the game business. Almost true. There were actually supposedly two different plans. The first one was initiated but never came through, and then was the second where Steven decided to foreclose on the company. And by the way, Steven also had the option of, you know, just paying the people for the work that they did, but instead he just chose to take all of that money for himself. Yes, that's also a thing that happened. So the people who were not paid and they worked while Ashes of Creation was going down, as yeah, Steven just chose to not pay them. I hope Zyback is having fun with this, by the way, considering Steven's not a bad guy. Steven refused, but obviously. When negotiations failed, Steven notified the bank holding his home loan of the incoming Steam funds from the EA launch and instructed them to write a letter to Valve to claim the 1.7 million salary money. Yes, there was, so this is still a little bit up in the air, but Steven effectively tried to take money from Valve 2 times. Once to himself and the second time to the bank. And Valve, surprise, surprise, kind of refused that. Now, this is a little bit still up in the air. This is very new news currently, so this may actually change very fast. But it seems that this is something that did happen, which is hilarious. So in the simplest terms, Steven effectively tried to make people pay him, and then he wanted the people to pay him again, but just send the check to the bank, so it's all good. Straight for the loans. It was great. This did three things. It technically fueled the obligation of launching the game to backers through. We know that the launch was bullshit, but that means that he didn't have to refund anyone. Two, securing the funds released at the 1.3 million from escrow of personal money that the bank was holding to secure his home loan. Three, the money was intended to pay payroll on February 1st. Then the money vaporized due to the bank's collapse. To the bank's claim, not collapse. They had no choice but to close the business and send warrant notifications. Is it short? Is warrant short for warrant notification? Warrant act? Maybe. That's why it came so late. Yes. So effectively, Steven had all the abilities to pay out the people who, he still who worked under him, but he chose not to. I mean, honestly, obviously as expected. Steven's unethical board was him refusing to take a step away from the control seat. Yes, that's a nice summary. I already summarized it here though at the start. And then we have the letter to the bank bankrupted the company. Stephen Sharif literally caused Intrepid Studios and Dashes of Creations to burn by his own hand and walked away from the business with literal millions of dollars in his bank account. Yes, because Stephen just took a lot of this money and kind of put it on his own name and his husband's name, because of course he has a husband. It's a guy who does MLM at the side. Well, and you know what's the funniest part? A lot of these people, a lot of these investors who actually put in millions were other people who made their fortunes through MLM. And MLMs are literally just scams most of the time, but they're legal scams, so it is what it is. Oh yeah, it's hilarious. Steven actually cooked a lot of people in MLMs by lying to them. But again, there's no way this works out for Steven. It's gonna probably take a couple of years for the courts and everything, because he's also getting probably sued out the wazoo by so many different large players. And writing away your house to your partner is not actually gonna work out, because it's not like the courts have never seen these type of actions before. They can actually forcefully revoke that deal. That's in their powers. So that's not gonna work. So Steven most likely is gonna go to jail after this. That's my belief. Now it's gonna probably take a couple of years. Or maybe he could just go to the place where legal mindset is and avoid responsibility in that way. But who honestly, it's option. There's a lot of options, as one might say. And yes, the funniest part probably is the fact that he could have kept this alive. That's the funniest part. All he had to do was just slightly step aside and allow potentially smarter people, aka the people who made their millions through Bitcoin and luck. But honestly, at this point, a monkey throwing darts at the dart table would probably make better decisions than Steven, so, point stands. Smarter people to actually lead the company and through financing and making deals and whatnot. Steven refused that. His investors, for the most part, were seemingly okay with trying to make this work, because this all did not start necessarily as a scam. Now, Steven lied from day one, but as far as it's possible to tell, he did actually want to make a thing that's real, because making a thing that's real is more money than making a thing that's not real. And considering Steven has already sold himself on the idea that, say it with me, boys, the World of Warcraft killer that his game was gonna be is gonna be the World of Warcraft killer. That's right. So, obviously, there's a lot more money in creating a World of Warcraft killer that functions than just trying to rug pull your fan base. So, he did try and make it, even though with a lot of lying since day one. Obviously, considering from day one he said that he's a billionaire who already has financed the game, so it's happening no matter what, which was a lie, as everyone can tell by now. He wanted to make it, and then he just chose not to. These investors were actually willing to put in the money to actually save the company, as long as Steven just would step back a little bit. Because they understood if they saved the company again for the 15th time after Steven did stupid shit, that the company would still implode probably a month later when Steven has again, in some shape, way, or form, allegedly embezzled all the money that they gave him. So they wanted him back or the thing burns. And Steven just allowed it to burn. Because obviously, yes. Funny, isn't it? And the funny part is, he would still get all the benefits. He would still get a lot of money from this. He just needed to step back, and the company could be saved because these investors already put in a lot of money. And they see that there is potentially something that can be made here, something that can be done. So they were fully willing to try and save this, but Steven was like, nah. If I'm not in control of this shit and no one is. Oh boy. Oh boy. Anyway, that's the story, and now we have to deal with retards like this, by the way. You should be careful with your posts. You're threatening allegations from a lawsuit as fact. So Sharif could sue. I have a feeling this could be a bot account. Because everyone knows that Steven is still in the Ashes of Creation Discord and upvoting and liking posts that are positive about the situation and are for some reason still on his side. So I wouldn't be surprised that Steven has an alt account or 5 and currently posting shit like this under negative Ashes of Creation posts. In any case, 10 out of 10. Bye.